entertainmentbuddha.com.
Hey now everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of Thrones Time. It's Matt, it's Nick, it's Keith, and yes, Pete the Cat is gracing us with his presence, so he'll probably cut out my mic stem at some point in time during this talk about Game of Thrones, Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Yes, my friends, we have got Season 8, Episode 2 in the bag. We watched it, we consumed it. Nick's watching it again as we talk right now. That's how much we are in this Game of Thrones world. So what we're going to do what we did when we broke down the premiere. We're going to kind of just, what did we think overall? Was it good? Was it bad? Did it suck? Was it awesome? Were there great moments? Were there bad moments? Were there cheesy moments? Were there moments that probably should have been cut? That's what we're here for. That's what fans do. We pick things apart that we love, right? Because we can never just be happy with what we get. So guys, overall, what did we think of GoT S8E2, a.k.a. Night of the Seven Kingdoms? Keith, I think we started with you last time. So let's go ahead and start with you again. I mean, overall, what was your feeling of this episode?
I loved this episode. To be perfectly honest, it was probably one of my favorites in, I don't know, maybe since the season 6 finale.
Oh.
I think I liked it better than pretty much all of season 7. It was freaking awesome. I talked about this with Nick in the email exchange, but I've always felt that sort of Game of Thrones' biggest strength is its characters and the writing.
Totally.
And like, you know, yeah, we get the fancy CG, yeah, we get the epic battles, yeah, we get the badassery, but the stuff that really sticks with me and the stuff that really separates it as a show is the characters. And that's literally all we got. Totally. Is just and like good character development. Good, like everybody gets a moment, and they're all just kind of sharing that experience of like, all right, this is about to go down. We're all probably gonna die soon, or at least most of us are. And like we're just with them on that journey, and it felt there was a sense of urgency to everything that I think was lacking from the premiere, and it was great. I loved it.
It's well said, and I think that kind of sums up, from what I read, the general consensus of other Game of Thrones fans. But I think it's interesting you pointed out that, hey, you know, this is definitely one of your top episodes, easily better than any episode from Season 7. And I mean, that's a great point to make because of how different this episode was than all of Season 7, because Season 7 was that season of, we made jokes about it, you know, Jon Snow's ability to get all around the world was uncanny, and you know, how fast the ravens fly, how quick is Gendry, all this stuff, because that season was nothing but boom, 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 in your face, let's get a battle, let's do this, action sequence, big action set piece, yada, yada, yada. And so far in this season, we've had now back-to-back, essentially, setup episodes, and this one in particular really, as Keith said, focused on the characters, and the characters that, you know, for the most part, we followed since the first season, and they're all completely different characters now. You could argue Jon Snow's probably the most unchanged, but he is still greatly different than he was when he was just Jon Snow the Bastard during the first season of Game of Thrones. So I'm with you there, man. It was I'm one of those assholes where at the end I just kind of went, you know, nothing happened, and then the more I sat there, I was like, you're an idiot. A ton of stuff happened. I mean, we're going to talk about during our top moment segment, but yeah, we got the big talk between Jon and Dany that we were hoping we would get when we were talking about the first episode last week. We got a huge moment between Arya and someone that she's been close to or she's been with throughout this adventure. So there's a lot going on, but as Keith said, it's much different than what we've gotten used to over these past 2 seasons, where everything kind of felt sped up. Where this episode, for the first time, guys, it felt like they kind of chilled again. There wasn't this rush to go from, all right, everyone's here, let's start fucking fighting. So with that being said, Nick, how did you process this episode?
I'm in the same boat as Keith, and I thought it was, one of the best episodes, possibly of the series. Definitely top 10 for me. We got everyone back together last episode, and this one, as Keith touched on, they're all coming to the realization that they, a lot of them are gonna die in the next episode.
I think they handle that quite well, though, don't they,
Yeah.
guys? I mean, it's like,
Well,
I'd be like, I'd almost be crying. I don't know how I'd be handling it, but it seemed like everyone was quite jovial for the most part.
well,
Like, hey,
I
fuck it,
think,
they're kind of resigned to their fate.
yeah, and I think with, as you mentioned, everything that all these characters have been through, a lot of them have already faced death. In our day and age in our lives, how often are we faced with sword fights and kidnappings and drag? You know what I mean? So like these.
I don't know, man. You
people-
live near Philly, don't you? So I mean, that could be.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but yeah, as you mentioned, Matt, all these characters have been through so much that the end of the world, the impending end of the world, doesn't really phase them to the point of fear, of cowardice. So I mean, you see it a little bit with some of the people that are, when Davos is serving the soup, the guy goes, "I'm not a soldier," and he goes, "Well, you are now." You see that a little bit there, but in our characters and who we're paying attention to, none of them have a shred of fear in them, or if they do, none of them are showing it. And
Well, hell, even
it's
Tyrion
amazing.
wasn't Tyrion the one there in that the fire room scene, and he's like, you know what? I actually think we can do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
and
there's
that
some among them that think they have a chance, probably because they, as Nick said, they've been through so much shit. Some of them literally have been killed and have come back. So I
Right.
guess you never know, but things aren't looking too great for our friends at Winterfell. But
No.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm with you guys. At first going through it, it's like, man, it's a little slow, but I like it. I kind of like the slow boil here. They're trickling some stuff out, and then obviously we got that end, and we knew it was going to end on the cliffhanger. We predicted it wasn't hard to. It's not like I'm saying we're geniuses here. I mean, you knew this episode was going to lead right into the battle, which we're going to get here in episode 3. It's going to be 80 minutes. The battle itself is going to be upwards of an hour of that 80 minutes, right, guys? So
Something like that, yeah.
At least 40, I think. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it was a great episode, but let's go ahead and get into some of the standout moments. I mean, this is an episode, as you're hearing from the three of us, so we could probably say every scene was a standout moment, and that's pretty much how my list shakes out. I mean, I went for some of the more random stuff. Some of the stuff I went like, oh, that was cool to see too, but you never know. So first and foremost, guys, it started with which we knew was coming, and that was the trial of Jaime Lannister. We got a great quote there from Bran, the things we do for love. He basically was throwing that in Jaime's face, but as we learn later on, Bran never intended to rat Jaime out anyways, because Bran, as nutty as he is, he knows what's up, right, fellas? And he pretty much said, hey, what good would it have been me telling them that you paralyzed me? I mean, we need you. We need anyone to fight in this battle. So I kind of like that Bran was jabbing him there in the trial without quite twisting the knife fully into him.
Yeah, definitely. And when they have their chat at the Weirwood tree in the Godswood, Bran even says, "You wouldn't be here today if you didn't push me out that window." So it really goes to show how at the time it seemed terrible and horrible, and it was, but it shows because of that and everything that's happened since then, how much these characters have changed for the better. And obviously Bran being the three-eyed raven and not Bran anymore, he understands that, and he has no anger towards anybody, as he says. So, it didn't make sense really for Bran to call Jaime out during the trial and tell everyone what he did. But, obviously between those two, they're both well aware.
I mean, Bran was dropping some truth bombs in this episode. This is a moment I know I missed, so I'm just going to bring it up now. But the fact that he pretty much laid out why the Night King is so driven to waste people, and it's solely to take out the three-eyed raven, right? Because he's the one that has the dreams of the living, essentially. So the Night King believes if this dude's off the map, mission solved, we're in the long night.
Yeah, so my whole understanding with that is the three-eyed raven is basically kind of like a timekeeper of things that are supposed to happen one way or another.
Got it.
It's almost like for my comic book fans out there in the Marvel universe, they have the Watchers, which are these astrological beings that basically have all the knowledge you could ever have, but they stand by and don't interfere with anything. They just keep tabs on what universes are doing, and that's the first thing I thought of with Bran in this sense.
Very interesting. Keith, any thoughts on that? Brand's reveal that, hey, I'm the main reason this thing is marching down here and laying waste to all living things.
Excuse me. I think it's a pretty good argument, and Sam really astutely jumps on the claims that Bran's making. And he's like, yeah, if I wanted to, like if his goal is to totally wipe out humanity, and that's his goal, that's the Night King's goal. The first and best place to start is wipe out, the single living being who acts as record keeper for everything. We never really die unless somebody still remembers us, and if we have that, if we get rid of that memory, then that's a pretty big step towards
Look
total
at that.
death.
See, both of you guys really broke that down much more expertly than I could have. So thank you for that. I think you're both dead on. I mean, really, you guys pretty much said the same thing, describing it different ways. But I mean, it was just refreshing to get a little insight into the world that Bran, or the Three-Eyed Raven, has kind of been in, because we just see him as weirdo Bran now, right? But obviously this guy's got all sorts of shit going through his head, and every once in a while, very few and far between, he drops some of these truths that kind of shed some light on the bigger picture and really what they're up against, and that kind of leads into their battle plans and this, that, and the other thing. But
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure I'm sold on their plan to use Bran as bait. It almost reminds me of the plan of, let's go north of the wall, attack a bunch of whites, and bring one back. Like,
right, I mean, they pretty much said it's going to be Theon and the people he brought, and then
of
the
all
dragons,
the people,
right?
of all the people you want
Yeah.
protecting you, it's going to be Theon. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Theon has to have his one big redemptive moment before he gets iced.
Yeah.
So
And he had some good moments in this episode. I might even put one of them in here. I don't know, but when Sansa and Theon meet again, I mean, that clearly Sansa has a very special place in her heart for this guy, regardless of the shit he did to the Starks. She has forgiven him above and beyond, and really, I mean, loves the guy. Some touching stuff, and the fact that's who she was spending the time with during the big epic song at the end of this episode was kind of telling to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, back to the top moments. That's a nice little tangent there. That's kind of what we do sometimes here on Thrones Time. So getting back in the chronology of the episode, right back to the trial of Jaime. Guys, I mean, we knew he was going to go on trial. I guess I was not thinking that Brienne would be the one that would bail him out. But, I mean, obviously it made perfect sense when it went down, because we know that she knows that Jaime is, the Oath Keeper. He is not just the Kingslayer to be a piece of shit. He did it for a reason, and he is kind of a good guy. And she explains that when it was looking like Sansa and Dany were going to agree on something for the first time. So what do you guys think of Brienne, this moment?
I liked it a lot, and I mean, it makes perfect sense for her to be the person to vouch for him, especially
She
with,
so loves him too, man.
Oh yeah, and that's what I was about to say. You know, Weiss and Benioff in the sort of inside the
Love
episode
that,
as
yes.
things were wrapping up, were just like, yeah. So this is very clearly the action of somebody who clearly loves Jaime Lannister, but doesn't know that that's the emotion that she's feeling just yet.
Right, because she
Or
was
like- or-
programmed to be kind of a man machine her whole life, so she's never given herself a chance to experience love. I did like that they clarified that.
And like, you know, we've all known that, I think, for a really long time, but it was nice to really see, you know, that relationship kind of, you know, come into play and then play such a huge role through the rest of the episode.
Oh, of course, yeah, and I know I got that scene on there, and we're gonna get to that because that's to me one of the best moments in Game of Thrones history, and a happy one at that. Because a lot of times in Game of Thrones, some of the best moments are the most shocking and brutal, and at least we got one in this episode that wasn't so shocking and brutal, because we're gonna get a lot of those coming up here in episode 3. Nick, any thoughts on Brienne? I mean, did you see that coming from a mile away with your many rewatches and studies of Game of Thrones?
No, and I was kind of glad too that the trial was at the beginning and that it was
yeah.
quick.
Right.
Even if Dany and Sansa were against Jaime, I still felt like Jon would have been like, you know what? He's a body. That's
I
what
love
we
that,
need.
dude. The awkwardness that Jon
Yeah.
Snow exhibited in this episode between him and Dany was fantastic. I mean, Kit Harington earned his money.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that Bran stood up for him. And I didn't think about this the first time through, but them two standing there together, they both have the swords made out of ice, the Stark sword.
Yeah.
Oh
So
shit!
Oathbreaker and Widow's Wail were both forged from ice after Ned was killed, and that Valyrian steel is back in Winterfell. I kind of wish maybe Jaime had said, "Oh, by the way, I have half of your father's sword here." Maybe that might have helped his cause a little bit before Brienne stood up. But yeah, I thought about that afterwards. I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I did not think about that, but
Mm-hmm.
now I'm kind of pissed that they didn't just hand them over and give them back to the Starks, those jerks. But I guess,
Yeah.
Brienne's kind of earned hers. And you know what? In the end, Jaime's going to earn his too if he hasn't already.
Well, and I'm curious too. I don't know if Brienne even knows that it was made out of ice. She knows it's
doubt it.
Valyrian, but
Right. Yeah, there's no way. She would have gave it back probably if she knew that.
Right, exactly.
Word.
Next one, just again a throwaway to me, but it stood out just because it was a fun scene. But it was the first fun scene between Arya and Gendry, where she finally just. I mean, I just loved Arya in this moment because you could tell she was trying to get intel from him about the Walkers, the Night King's army, the Whites, so on and so forth. Because we know she is a deadly warrior assassin. No one else does. So Gendry's just like, what the fuck? Why are you asking me all this shit? And I just like how at the end, the way that she finally proved to him and showed him, like, yo, dude, this is who I am now. Just, get with it, get over it. I'm not this dummy, innocent little girl anymore. And she throws those 3 dragon glass daggers in a row and basically pinpoints every single one. And his look and his reaction, like, okay, I will get that weapon ready for you right away, ma'am. It was just, like I said, kind of a fun throwaway scene, but I loved Arya just letting him know, listen, dude, this is who I am now. Eat a dick.
Yeah, that was good, and that was one of the scenes that we saw from an earlier trailer too, where he's talking about the White Walkers are basically death, and she goes, I've seen many faces of death. I'm looking forward to seeing this one. I don't know that she fully understands what she's going to run into, but I'm very excited for when it happens.
She was doing her due diligence, if anything else. I mean, she was
Right.
definitely trying to figure out how they attack, their weaknesses, their moves, what it's going to be like, the atmosphere they bring to a battle. So I love Arya. And again, the scene coming up here towards the end was another one that I just was enthralled with, felt creepy watching, but also aroused. I mean, it was one of the steamiest scenes I've seen in a while in Game of Thrones, and I still feel like a creep for feeling that way, but we'll get there. So Up next, guys, this one was kind of big. I mean, it was just a casual conversation between Jaime and Tyrion. And those two had a couple in this episode. I really loved the moments we got between the brothers. You can tell that they've kind of put their rocky past behind them. They're ready to move on. But really here, the telling thing is Jaime himself confirms to Tyrion, like even Tyrion says, well, is the baby even real? Which we've all been questioning. And Jaime pretty much says straight up, yes, it's real. So I'm going to go to Keith right away because I know he's always been no way, no way, no way. Did this make you feel any better, or do you think Jaime's duped too? I mean, I don't know how he would not know or know unless he sat there and made sure she didn't have a period for multiple weeks straight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I guess we'll never know when it comes from Cersei.
That's the only reason why I'm still skeptical.
I knew it.
Especially because like Tyrion straight up tells Jaime, he's like, no, you were fooled just as much as the rest of us. Like I'm sorry. I'm mixing that up. He's like, yeah, you knew what she was the entire time. Like, you knew how much of a liar she was. You knew how horrible she was. And yet he still is believing that she's pregnant. I don't know, man.
That's kind of how I felt, but I know it's something that we've gone over and over and over with, and it's why does Jaime? He just felt. I mean, he seems so convinced that it's real, like without a doubt. So that's like I said. I mean, was he watching her for a certain amount? 8, 10, 12 weeks, whatever it is. I don't know, but he was very convincing. But Cersei can do that to men in particular.
To Jaime in particular.
Yes.
Like, of all the people that she can manipulate, she probably manipulates him the easiest because he wants it, because he loves her so much.
Oh yeah, I mean he loves her in more ways than one. So
well, you go back to the scene where they're at the dragon pits, and she tells Jon and Dany to their face, yes, I'll send my army north. And then Jaime's making plans on the best way to get the army up there, and she goes, you actually think I'm going to do that? Like, he had no idea that she was lying.
I guess and I'm glad you brought that up. I guess that's why I'm questioning after he knew he just got duped hardcore. So do you think he's still that gullible that he's believing the baby thing, or does he know definitively somehow, which again, I don't know how he would.
Right. Yeah, I mean...
It was odd that he was so convinced, because Nick hit it right on the head. Because he finally got burned by her, and he felt what it feels like to get burned by her, lied to her, duped. So it caught me off guard, and that's why I brought it up. Like, he was so convincing. Like, yes, Tyrion, trust me, I know she lies out her ass, this, that, and the other thing. But this, I know, for sure, is legit.
Well, and I mean, that was one of the biggest things of the last 2 episodes was Tyrion being like, this I know for sure, and having it come back to bite him in the ass. I mean, shit, even the last season when he made the plan to attack Casterly Rock, he was convinced that he was doing the right thing. He was convinced that he was right. And
Tyrion's on thin ice with his advising. I mean, by the way, at the end of that trial, I mean, Dany was about ready to demote his ass.
True. I mean, things come back around in due course. But he makes the point, and I think it's at the end of the conversation that we're talking about right now with Jaime, when he says that, I made a mistake common to clever people. I overestimated my own cleverness.
I love that guy. Absolutely love that guy. So, all right. Well, I mean, we're still kind of out there on that one. I mean, who knows? At this point, this baby could come out like that demon baby that Melisandre birthed to kill. What the fuck's his name? I don't even remember his name anymore.
Renly.
It's been so long. Yeah, Renly Baratheon. You never know with Cersei and what she's been up to, especially when she's got Qyburn in her corner. I mean, that guy's essentially Dr. Frankenstein. So you do not know what's going on in the annals of King's Landing. Thanks, Pete.
Is Cersei's baby the prince that was promised?
There you go. Azor Ahai.
New theories.
Azor Ahai. Here we go. Yeah, someone was running with back on Jamie's the guy again now last week. I forget why. I think the reason I didn't send it to you guys because I read is like, no, I mean, I'll share theories, but they have to have some merit to them. And they just didn't set up good arguments. So, all right, next moment here, and really, I'm loving the way these two women are behaving around each other. But we had a legit talk between Sansa and Dany. You could tell Dany was going there with an olive branch extended, and it looked like the two were kind of headed to a mutual place of agreement until Sansa dug in on the North. I mean, Sansa really is like, listen, the North is going to remain sovereign whether you like it or not. I mean, right, guys? That's pretty much what she has told Dany at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And what Dany doesn't share with Sansa is the fact that she made that promise to Yara with the Iron Islands. But I guess Dany's not willing to extend that just to another realm just yet. But yeah, that was certainly a stopping point, and you know, unfortunately for us, the conversation was interrupted there. But you know,
oh, it was getting icy. I mean, that Dany, they were even holding hands, and then
well,
once
yeah,
Sansa was like, "Yo,
like,
the North,
you know
the North,
what?
the North," Dany just sucked away like, "Nah, bitch."
Well, and they were you know, finding common ground finally. You know, warming up. We actually see Daenerys smile at her, and
Oh yeah, they made
put her
fun of
hand on
Jon's
her,
height. That was good.
yeah, and, yeah.
They what else were they talking about? I liked how Dany kind of talked Sansa's point away and made it moot that, you know, Jon did what he did because of his dick and balls, where, you know, Dany's like, listen, my entire life I've been wired and programmed to reclaim the Iron Throne. I met this guy and I brought everything north to fight the army of the dead. So what does that say about me?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. I mean, but as we found out at the end of the episode, I don't know how much she really does love Jon, because it went pretty much the way we were predicting her reaction, which was not good. And I am starting to think that Dany may be the one to fuck a lot of this shit up. Anyways, I did like the exchange between those two. Sorry, go ahead, Keith.
Oh, I was going to say one thing that I wanted to point out is like the conversation that leads to that point is Jorah kind of hopping in and
he was
Dany,
playing
like, hey,
backup hand there for a little bit.
Yeah. and that's where he essentially tells her, it's like, hey, I kind of wanted to kill Tyrion, but he's also really, really smart. And he is smart enough. He's the kind of smart where he knows when he screws up and knows and will learn from that and be better. So like maybe cool down a little bit. And he's like, and then there's one other thing that you should probably do. You should probably go talk to Sansa.
Oh yeah,
And
I mean they didn't have to show it, and we knew what that last piece of advice was.
Yeah, it was a good move, one of those moments that I think we've missed a lot of in recent years.
Yeah, because I mean we knew it was going to be an uncomfortable conversation, but one that needed to happen, and one between two major characters that can really change the course of the game as it plays out over these last guys, down to 4 episodes. Oh, it's painful to even think about, but I guess we're getting a long one coming up here. Next top moment I had here, this is another one of those just silly throwaway ones, but I mean Tormund was full of silly throwaway stuff in this episode, right? But his first moment, his arrival, I mean everyone's, you know, like, oh, Ed's here, and oh, hey, Beric, and then literally as Jon's walking over to hug Ed, Tormund just basically office linebackers him, right? He tackles him Terry Tate style. That was fantastic. And then he ends it with like, what does he say? Is the big woman still here?
Yeah.
I love this guy.
Yeah, he definitely has some lines. His story about how he got his name was very enjoyable.
Oh yeah, let's just run with that, because I also have that on the list.
Yeah.
But I mean, he tells the legend of how he became Tormund Giantsbane. He pretty much said, "I killed a giant. I slept in his wife's bed. She thought I was her baby, and I just started suckling her teat, and I drank giant's milk, and that's how I'm so big and strong." And really what made this great, I mean, for some reason, and I guess what I want to ask Keith, was that a moment where you're like, okay, that's a little too much cheese for Game of Thrones? Because I mean, when he was telling that story about the giant, I was fucking laughing out loud, and it did.
Same. I died.
Okay.
I loved it.
Okay, so yeah, because I know we talked about some of the comedy in the first episode with the dragon looking like, "What you doing, fool?" That type of thing. It was a little un-Game of Thrones like, not to sound like snobs, but it felt a little off. This one, as I watched, is like, this is fucking brilliant, but I wonder how Keith and Nick saw it.
I saw it as in character for Tormund.
Okay,
Right.
okay, yes.
He acts goofy around Brienne all the time, so this is just like normal behavior.
Well, and like during season 4, when they're when the wildlings are going south to the wall, and he's telling the story about how he fucked a bear, like over and over again, to the point where Egret's like, "You didn't fuck no bear," and oh my god, I like that. So him telling the story about the giant, I was losing my shit.
Well, even before that, when he comes into the room and Brienne's like, "We're glad you're here," and then he like raised an eyebrow, like, "Oh," she's like, "We're glad you're here fighting." He's like, "All right," and then he goes into his story, and then he chugs his beer, or his wine. He's got
the
dripping
looks
down
on
his,
everyone's faces are like, "What
Yeah.
the fuck?"
And it's so clearly a competition with Jamie, because he's like,
Oh yeah,
he's like, I know she's got the hots for you. But he's like, they call you King Killer. They call me Giant Spain.
Yeah.
Listen to my story and then watch me chug this beer.
No, I'm glad you guys brought that up, because as I watched him, you could tell it was clearly middle school style dating, where Tormund was trying to one up Jamie, even though Jamie's not trying to win over Brienne. I mean, Brienne loves Jamie. I think Jamie probably loves Brienne and respects her now. I mean, that scene was beautiful, where he's like, "Hey, I know you're commanding this part of the battle. I want to serve under you." I don't know that he loves her in a sense of, I want to hump you. We know Tormund wants to hump Brienne. So he's kind of putting on that, okay, I'm going to show off. I'm going to one him up. I'm going to one up the popular guy. And that's what made it funny. And just the story and the way he told it, and then he ends it drinking like a slob, thinking that would impress her. Just fantastic all around, Tormund. We love you and your big woman. Okay, so going back one scene, and really this one was for Nick, and I'm going to imagine that Nick's probably a little disappointed. I didn't even know that one of these characters was in this scene, first and foremost. That's why I think Nick may be disappointed. But we got a great little reunion between the Brothers of the Night's Watch, or the remaining Brothers of the Night's Watch, which is Sam, John, and Dolores Ed, but Ghost was there too, and I had no clue that Ghost was there. That could be because when I watched the episode the first time, I'm taking notes to do the recap and stuff, but I completely missed it. Either way, the fact that I missed it, or people that I was watching with it didn't yell out loud, leads me to believe that Ghost's reintroduction to the show was not done properly. Nick.
So to save on the CGI money, they just got a cardboard cutout and just put it right there behind the guys as they were talking. That's what I think happened. Okay. It was dumb. I saw Ghost right away. That was the first thing, because it's dark. The guys are wearing black. Ghost is.
But you're right. They didn't even make him big. It's just like a fucking wolf now.
Yeah, and if John would have even said something like to Ed, like, "Oh, thanks for bringing Ghost down from the wall," even that I would have been okay. That's still kind of weak, but at least he acknowledged it. There's no acknowledgement of Ghost even there, which is a shame. So yeah, that was upsetting. We were promised prominent Ghost time, so he better be in 79 at the 80 minutes next week is all I'm saying.
Like he's nothing. He's in every single battle scene. Then is what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. I need a 20 or 30 minute episode of what Ghost has been doing since John was revived. Because
that's why I went to you first, because I knew it probably rubbed you the wrong way, because they really did fucking shortchange this character. I mean, it is a character. The other dogs got prominent send-offs, and they were never just forgotten for almost 2 seasons. I mean, the one was, but she even got her moment in season 7 when Arya returned. Mm-hmm. Ghost, as Nick kind of laid out, has been shit on to the point where they're not even digitizing him anymore. They're just like rolling in a random wolf and be like, "Oh yeah, it's whatever, that's Ghost, just pretend." As Nick said, they're saving the VFX for the dragons in the big battle, but I don't know, Keith. What'd you think? Did you even know Ghost was there? I mean, were you kind of a little let down by his return as well?
I mean, I screamed out. I was like, we got a ghost sighting, thinking of Nick as as that happened. But I mean, I don't know, man. It was cool. It was fine.
It was more about the humans to me. I mean, I guess that speaks volumes about the actors and how much we like John and Sam and Ed. But because I was just fixed on them and those three being reunited for the first time in seasons. Really, I mean, I don't think they've been together since season 1. So that's what I was kind of looking for. And then today, when I was recapping and reading stuff, I realized that I missed Ghost. So to me, it was kind of a fail reunion. But one that ultimately probably isn't that important. But I think it should have got a little more, like Nick said, he should at least had his name spoken.
Well, and for all the symbolism that direwolves represent for House Stark, when they find the direwolves in the first place, it's when the direwolf mother and a stag, Sigil of House Baratheon, basically killed each other. It's the exact number of direwolves matching the exact number of Stark children. It's just too symbolic that I felt like they just were like, oh, by the way, Ghost is standing here, but we're not going to mention it. We're not going to say anything. It just felt off to me. So I got a feeling he's going to go crazy at some point. But
Ray John. But you're right. I mean, I did read. Apparently, he's going to have some moments here, which is probably just means we're going to watch him die heroically. So he came back, got shortchanged on that, and now he's going to die, hopefully a hero, but that's going to suck because I honestly hate, and we discussed this before if you've been listening, watching the dragon get shot down is one of the most tragic moments to me in Game of Thrones history, as well as watching the direwolves sacrifice. I mean, seeing those assholes riding around with Rob's dog's head on his head. Oh, terrible. Yeah. I don't care about anything else at the Red Wedding. What they did to the dog, that was egregious. All right, so we got to talk about it. I felt like a creep. I'll come out and say it. But that scene between Arya and Gendry, for some reason, was very arousing to me. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because she just came in and took what she wanted or what. But I felt like an old, dirty man, and that's okay. I've come to grips with that. That's okay. So guys...
You watch a show that promotes incest, so, I mean...
Right. But it's just, you know what it is. I mean, we've watched Maisie essentially grow up on screen. I mean, yes, she's of age, and, we weren't committing any crimes here, but...
And the character is, too.
Right. Exactly.
Like, that's an important thing to point out at this point. She's, 18, 20 in the show?
Right. Yeah, something like that.
Because they've always said in the show she's older than in the books anyways. But, yeah, they were... From what I read, it was over 18 for sure.
Well, and I think part of it, too, and I was talking to a friend today about it, part of it, too, is we've seen all the other characters actually grow up and change their looks to some extent, but looks very, very much like she did early in the season.
Oh,
you know what I mean? She's, height-wise, she hasn't really grown the whole, Sophie Turner's grown a lot. Obviously, Bran, went from 4 feet to 6 feet over a course of a season. But so I definitely understand how that scene, and I felt the same way. It felt a little weird, a little creepy to watch. But as Keith said, she's 18, 19 in the show. She's with Gendry, who she obviously has feelings for ever since they were together with the band of brothers, and it might be their last night alive. So she wants to experience what sex is like before she goes out.
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, creepiness aside and being aroused, like I said, I mean, it was a well written scene. It was a well acted scene. I liked it, but I did feel dirty. Keith, anything more for that, or are you keeping quiet on the creepy scene?
I mean, it was fine. I had mentioned this to Nick in the email exchange. Like, Arya, she's been off doing her thing for so long. I'm like, she never got down with a dude before, but, that, like, I want you to be my first thing kind of struck me as implausible, but the more like on initial watching, but the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, no, she was like off doing her thing, trying like learning to be a trained killer. Not much
Yeah.
time for dalliance.
Basically like a nun
when-
at that place, but learning to kill.
Well, and she was a blind beggar for a period of time, like,
Yeah.
you know. So good on her, man. It was
Do we think that Gendry was telling the truth when he said he was with 3 women?
no,
It's probably,
Yeah, I don't either.
probably less, probably one.
yeah.
if you want to even count Melisandre.
He still even seems like an awkward type of fellow though. Even now when he's like the lead smithy, he still seems a little awkward. But hey,
Well, I do like with this scene too. It harps back to the first episode with Robert and Ned talking about, I have a son, you have a daughter, our houses will be one.
Yeah, there you
and
go.
obviously then we're talking about Sansa and Joffrey, but here we are, Arya and
these
Gendry
are actually.
Gendry reveals that he's Baratheon's bastard. So
Look at that! Look at Keith.
yeah,
He's
full circle.
He's getting it all tied together. And as he just said, the circle is now complete. All right, so to me, probably the standout moment of season so far, if not the past 2 seasons, and that was the knighting of Sir Brienne. It was just a great, again, well written scene, beautifully acted scene. I thought Gwendolyn just handled it perfectly, and then obviously Nicolas in his role in the matter. But it was just a great moment, and if anyone deserves to be a knight, as a knight is defined in these medieval times, these fantasy epics, it is Brienne of Tarth, right, guys? I mean, she
Damn
is
Skippy.
the epitome of what a knight should be.
Yeah, I mean, she in our email exchange, I mentioned this to Keith. She's probably the one person in this entire show who has exemplified nobility, integrity throughout while remaining alive. You're right. She exemplifies exactly what a knight is to be.
John's a close second. I mean, the worst he did bang Ygritte when breaking his vows, but that's about it.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's growing up under the tutelage of Ned Stark, whose good heart ended up getting his head lopped off. But I did. This is what this show has done to me. When Jaime was knighting Brienne, there was like 0.00001% of me that thought he was like gonna stick the knife in her throat. I was like, this is what this show.
Fuck.
This is what the show has done.
You were demented, man.
There
It
was
ruined
just
you.
the smallest part of my brain that was like,
Do it.
expect this. It's not going to happen, but just don't be surprised if it does, because
Oh my God.
that's what Game of Thrones has done to me with stuff like that. So obviously it didn't happen. I'm glad it didn't.
That's some evil shit, man. I mean, yeah, I know
Hey,
Game
that's
of Thrones was like that, but
you don't
Jaime
expect to get
wasted
stabbed at a
Brienne.
wedding, but it happened.
Oh.
True.
But
love it, dude.
no, it was one of probably my favorite scene of the episode, and just to see Brienne smile for the first time in the entire series.
We'll have really any
Right.
womanly emotion. Well, any emotion. I mean, crying. I mean, she was touched by the honor that they bestowed upon her. It was just a fantastic moment for a great character who's probably going to meet a heroic end. I mean, does Brienne make it out of the battle here?
Not after that scene.
No, not now.
Yeah.
Not now.
Right, there's no way.
It was also, I think, a nice culmination to one of the better done, like, lengthy conversation set pieces.
Oh yeah, because that one
like-
it built throughout the episode. I mean, it started just as Jaime and Tyrion talking, then Brienne and Pod, then Tormund, and then that happened.
And
You're right.
Davos, and that gradual layering in of characters was just that it was stellar writing.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Great.
I did like too where you have that moment where Brienne and Pod come in and Tyrion offers him wine, and Podrick's like, yeah, sure, I'll have some. Brienne's like, no, that's not a good idea. And then she's like, all right, well, half a cup. Tyrion pours it till it's overflowing, and
Right,
they have
that
they
smile
have that little
they
look
have
between them.
each other. Yeah, it's fantastic.
and then with Davos coming in, we know his tradition pre-battle is to walk around and stay sober, and now he's inside, getting drunk basically.
Yeah.
So he's got a different viewpoint on all of this now too.
Yeah, no, I mean, Keith's right. It was the best touching in or catching up with iconic characters moment of that episode, because that's really what this episode was just putting characters together that haven't been together, let them have their moments, move on to the next one. But this one it had layers to it, as Keith said. So the last major moment here, guys, not a hard one to make this list, and is one we were hoping to get. And it did happen right at the end. I think we were hoping it would happen right at the beginning, but we got it at the end, and that was John's news to Danny. First and foremost, I absolutely loved how he delivered it by telling the legend again, but correctly now instead of the whole rape stuff. I mean, I thought that was fantastic. It was a very Jon Snow way of delivering it. And then 2, her reaction couldn't have been worse for Jon and Westeros, because she's clearly went right to, oh shit, someone has a better claim than me, which is very narcissistic. It's very self-centered. I mean, she didn't think anything about their love, where the writers, DB and David were saying, Jon in particular, his biggest concern was the incest stuff and the love between him and Danny just goes right to, oh shit, he has a better claim. So, what'd you guys think of the whole reveal? Did it play out the way you expected? Did you like it? Did you feel it was shortchanged? What do you got?
It was great. I loved Emilia Clarke's acting during that, and just like the lip curl.
Oh yeah.
The second she starts talking to him, after he's like, "Oh, by the way, my name's actually Aegon Targaryen," and she just rage, just overflowing in every word, and she's been kind of like grating on me over the past couple of years, but that was a fucking awesome scene.
Totally.
Yeah, it was the fact that it was done right in front of Lyanna's tomb. Like you said, Danny starts kind of retelling the story. Jon corrects her and tells the truth, and even though there's no real physical proof at the point in time, Danny feels it's true. And if she truly believes what everyone says about dragons and Targaryens, the fact that Jon rode Rhaegal should be proof enough for her.
Yeah, I think I was the idiot saying, like, well, maybe she already knows and she'll embrace the truth. And no, obviously not. She did not like this at all. And it definitely, yeah. I think it caught Jon off guard. The news definitely caught her off guard. And like I said, there are more and more hints now that she may be a little mad like her daddy Aerys.
Mm-hmm.
Or she's got a little vindictive streak in her. I mean, she even said that the way she stressed at the Sansa early on, like, listen, my whole life I've been programmed to get this Iron Throne. It's mine, essentially. And I'm coming up here because I love Jon. But she kind of hinted right there when he told her it's not really about the love. It's about that Iron Throne. And now that she knows that Jon isn't someone that's going to help her get it, he's someone that could help take it away from her. You don't know what that could do to someone, especially someone that comes from a family of incest, of wonky DNA, of madness. She's definitely willing to do what it takes, and we saw she burned up the Tarleys. I don't know. I don't think it's good. I definitely don't think it went down the way Jon wanted it to, and dag nabbit, the fucking horns rang right there at the end to pull him away, so we didn't really get to see where it goes. All we got was a line from the trailer where she's like, the dead's here already anyways. Like, fuck you, you idiot. You pissed me off by telling me that, and blah, blah, blah. I can't even imagine what he says, but...
Well, that's where I'm curious if he just would have been better off waiting until after the battle to see if they even survive. Instead of, like, pissing her off right before they're about to fight the undead army. Like, probably not the smartest timing, but, he's got Stark blood, so they're not known for... Yeah, they're not known for timing.
He just... You could tell it was killing him the entire episode. I mean, Kit did a fantastic job playing off the awkwardness of being in the room with someone you care about, yet... you know something, you have to tell them something horrifying or could be horrifying. But then I don't know. I'm hoping, and I don't think we're gonna get it because I think it is gonna roll right into some battle. But I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a little more to their conversation about what was just revealed than what we got.
Yeah, and if,
they're going to come back to it.
If we know anything about John, it's going to be, I don't want the throne. Because he doesn't want any form of leadership. But
I know, but I feel like
but...
I think what's going to come at play here is not so much that he doesn't want it. I think it's going to be he's going to have to take it because that's the only way he's going to get the North and everyone to follow along with the next step of the process, which is probably fighting the living again. But I don't even know how that's going to be a possibility because they're going to get fucking ransacked next week.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they've got all their trenches. They've got all their, what are they called, their cattails or whatever the hell those things they have all set up with the dragon glass on them. It's not gonna go. It's not gonna go well. So I don't know. I mean, that's where I'm at. I mean, I know we're about to go into a very heavy action-oriented episode, but I want some more of this dialogue. But I want it between those two to see where she takes this thing. Because I mean, I think it fucked her up, and not in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you said, she's focused on one thing and one thing only, and now there's someone legitimately standing in her way.
All right, guys. Well, I think that does it for Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which is just a fantastic title when you think about what went down in the episode. I mean, again, the writers came out and said it was about both Brienne and Jaime. They are the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It was a really great episode. A little slow moving, a little bit of a slow boil, but you got some fantastic character moments, character development, and just reunions and fan service, if you will. And this was a fan service episode to soften us up for the inevitable gut punch blow that is coming in S8 Episode 3 next week. And it is going to be rough, guys. I mean, as we wrap things up here, I mean, how many major characters die next week? You don't even have to name them. How many do you think are going to die?
I'm going with at least 3.
Okay.
I'm gonna go higher. I'm gonna say like 6.
Yeah, I had 5 in my head, and
yeah.
Okay.
I think Keith's right on major characters, but I think Nick and I may have, like a Barrack to me wouldn't feel like a tragic death.
I'm thinking like Jorah, like I think Brienne dies. Like I'm thinking them. Side note too, we got to see Jorah and Lyanna Mormont, the cousins.
I love
which I thought was really great to see.
She just dressed his ass down.
Yep, just like she did everyone else. And
fantastic.
He's finally realized that the house is in good hands.
It was fantastic because it's funny because it's supposed to be his,
right?
But he was banished and whatnot and lost his rights, and it was she's just fantastic. Please don't kill her, right? Don't make her one of our 3, 5, or 6 call. But we'll know next week when we come back to break that episode down, and it could be a heavy one, people. So we're gonna try something new here, a new sign off. We're gonna leave you with a quote from the current episode that's gonna lead us into the next. And Nick kind of took it upon himself to dig up some great ones, and he found 3 fantastic quotes from Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. So the one I'm going with, fellas, the one I'm going to leave everyone with to lead us into the Battle of Winterfell, which is going to be a horrific episode. Probably Red Wedding style. Maybe not as shocking because I think we know it's coming, but it's going to be rough. So until then, we are all going to die, but at least we'll die together.